hi team Pure Yoga. So mindful movement this week is going to be built around strength. So we're working on the third chakra, which is your Manipura chakra, which is the colour yellow. And this is where the fire in the belly is situated. So the element of this chakra is actually fire. So that means we're going to be working a lot on core strength. So the core strength will be from just at the upper thigh all the way into the upper back and around the abdominals and the obliques at the sides of the waist. So we're going to be working strength around that area. So we're going to be doing lots of things to help get the abdominals stronger, the obliques stronger, the latissimus dorsi stronger in the back, those spine muscles stronger. So anything that doesn't feel right, don't do it, and just bring yourself maybe to a child's pose or just rest and wait for the next pose. But generally it's going to be nice and slow. We'll be building some strength in the shoulders as well. So we're going to start laying down on the mat and bring our feet to the front of the mat, bums into the centre, toes back towards the shins, push the heels away. And we're going to slowly make our way down from this seated position, bringing the arms up to the shoulder height, taking a deep breath in and a long breath out as you start to lower the body all the way down towards the floor. Starting out with the first bit of abdominal strength, and as you release that body down to the floor, bring the hands up and over the head. Take an interlace of the fingers. Point now through the toes to stretch through the shins and contract through the calves. And reach up nice and long with the fingers, and then try and bring the shoulders back down away from the ears. Now notice how that lower back feels. Has it gone into an arch? If it has, try and bring those ribs and hips to tether towards each other, lifting the lower belly up slightly and pushing the tailbone down slightly, and then start to draw the toes back to the shins. And you're trying to aim to push that lower back a little more into the floor, and those abdominals starting to switch on. Keep those shoulders relaxed, but the arms lengthen to the back of the mat. Notice how you've had to start to activate through the upper thighs, through the belly, to get that back to push a little further down. And then from this position, without taking an arch through that lower back, walk the feet over to the right side of the mat, the hands over to the right side of the mat, just to stretch that left side body. And just breathe into that rib cage on that left side, taking a little lateral flexion of the spine. Relax the shoulders down, keeping the shoulder blades and the sit bones grounded to the floor, and the chest and hip bones pointing up to the ceiling. Keep breathing nice long breaths. So quite often when we work with strength, you have a temptation to hold the breath when the body starts to stress. If ever at any point you start to do that, try and be mindful of it and bring that breath a little deeper into the belly. Taking longer breaths in, longer breaths out. And then walk the feet and the hands over to the other side, taking lateral flexion onto the other side of the body. Stretching now the right side, contracting the left side, really feeling like you're squeezing that left side waist to take it into that half moon shape on the mat. Keep those shoulders relaxed down, shoulder blades plugged in, sit bones plugged into the mat. Still thinking about that little rib and hip tether. And then bring yourself back to the centre, taking the body nice and long. And then bringing the hands down by the sides, out to a T shape, palms face down. Take a bend into both knees. We'll take a little lateral flexion of the spine here. So nudge the hips over to the right side, drop the knees to the left side. And maybe then when you've let your knees come to the left, maybe take a gaze towards that right hand. Keeping the right shoulder grounded so the chest is pointing up, but with the rotation coming from the waist, the hips now should be pointing to the left side. Try not to impinge that lower back, and by lifting up the lower belly and hooking that tailbone down. One more breath in the rotation to the left side with the legs. Then think about switching those core muscles on at the right side of the body as you bring those knees back into centre, gaze back up to the ceiling. Send the hips now a little over to the left side and bring the knees now over to the right side. Taking a gaze towards that left hand, if the neck is happy to do so. Let gravity take a hold of the legs. Keep that tailbone hooking under slightly. Keep that stretch and length down the lower part of the back. And then bring those knees back into centre. Engage that left side waist to lift those knees back up. Neutralise the spine back into the middle, so bring those sit bones back to centre. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body, palms facing down. Separate the feet so they're hip width apart, same with the knees. Gaze stays up as we push into the feet. Start to roll up through that spine, bringing ourselves up into a bridge position. So we're taking the spine into a little extension. And we're trying to squeeze the glutes, squeeze the upper hamstrings to push those hips a little higher. First little bit of core engagement in those backside legs and in those glutes. Think about the knees and then not splaying out to the side. So we're feeling like we're squeezing something in between those knees, but the knees aren't coming together. And that switches on the inner adductors of the thighs. Squeeze the glute maximus, which is the bulk of the bum muscle, which is at the lower and back end of the body. One more squeeze up high in extension. And then start to slowly curl the spine back down the mat. Starting to let that bum come down to the floor. And then once the bum's reached the mat, just slowly bring the knees a little into the chest. Take a hold of the knees. Then take an abdominal contraction to lift the upper chest and the forehead towards the knees. Compress through those hip flexors. So now we're stretching the back of the body, compressing the front of the body, bringing us into a fetal position. Holding it here for another breath. Then release everything back down to the mat. Bring the feet back so they're just a little way in front of the bum and the knees are bent. Bring the hands behind the back of the head, interlace the fingers. So we're not pulling on the neck here, we're relaxing the head into the hands. Squeeze the rib and hips together, lift the lower belly up, push the back into the mat. And we're going to do some crunches up into the centre, then to the left, then to the right. So as you breathe in, lengthen through the torso. As you breathe out, find a crunch. Breathe in, lengthen. Breathe out and crunch right elbow to the left. Breathe in, lengthen. Crunch left elbow to the right on the out breath. In breath, lengthen. And crunch to the middle. Really feel those abdominals contracting. Back down to the floor. Right elbow to the left. And crunch on the exhale. Back to centre. Left elbow to the right. And back to centre. Try not to pull on the head. Come to the middle on the out breath. Back to centre. Right elbow to the left on out breath. In breath, back to centre. Left elbow to the right. And back to centre. Then come back to the middle. Out breath, back to centre. Then take right elbow to the left. Back to centre. Left elbow to the right. And back to centre. One more in all three positions. Out breath into the middle. In breath, lengthen. Out breath, right elbow to the left side. And in breath, lengthen. Out breath, left elbow to right side. In-breath, lengthen. Release the hands, bring the knees into the chest. Give those knees a hug, maybe a little rock of that body from side to side. And then from this position, we're going to rock up to a seat. Either swing the legs around or tuck the feet under. Find your way into a tabletop position. And in tabletop, keep that ribbon hip tether. Push into the hands. Push the chest cavity into that space between the shoulder blades. So right leg first. On the out breath, lift that knee up to hip height, pointing the sole of the foot to the ceiling. And then bring that knee back to meet the left. Out breath, bring the knee out to the side, squeeze the outside of the glute. In breath, back to center. Out breath, lift the knee up to hip height towards the back. Back to center. Take it out to the side. Squeeze on the exhale. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, knee lifting up to the back. Try not to let the belly drop. Back to center, inhale. Exhale, out to the side. Back to center, inhale. Exhale, lift the knee back and out. Try not to arch the back. Back to center. Take it out to the side. And back to center. One more both directions. Point that sole of the foot up to the ceiling, knee to hip height. Back to center. Knee out to the side, squeeze the outside glute medius, and back to center. Put the weight now into the right knee. Same on the left side, soften the elbows, chest pushing into that space between the shoulder blades, belly's drawn back. Take an out breath, exhale, lift. In breath, back to center. Out breath out to the side, squeeze the glutes. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, back and up, hip height. Don't let the lower back arch, use the hamstrings to squeeze. Back to center. Exhale, out to the side. And back to center. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lift. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, out to the side. Inhale, back to center. One more both direction. Exhale, lift. Inhale, back to center. All the time keeping that core strong. Out to the side. And back to center. Release that knee down. Walk the hands a handprint further forward. Raise your right leg up to the back of the room, lifting and straightening, pointing through the toes. Turn the creases of the elbows forward, lower the chest towards the floor. Then push into those hands, lift the chest back up. Bring that right knee back to meet the left. Left leg straightens out, squeeze the bum, lift up with those hamstrings and bum cheeks. Turn the creases of the elbows forward. Lower the chest to the floor, elbows graze the ribs, chin comes to the mat. Push into those hands and lift the chest back away. Bring that knee back to center. Just have a little rock of the hips from side to side. Then step both feet back into a plank. Hold it in plank for the count of 5. Soften the elbows, draw the belly back. 4. Squeeze the thighs. 3. Squeeze the glutes. 2. And 1. Start to paddle the feet as you lift up the hips, sending one heel down at a time as we bring ourselves to our first down dog. Try to keep that slight ribbon hip tether so we're not arching in the lower back, really concentrating on keeping those abdominals strong. Then when you're ready, bringing those heels to a still position, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Left foot we put the weight into. Raise the right leg without lifting through the right hip. So you really have to work the glute and the hamstring to lift that leg high. If the hip starts to turn out, realign the hips, make them neutral, and then squeeze a little more through the glute to lift that heel a little higher. Then bring that knee towards the chest, bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands, and squeeze the hip flexor on that right side. So now we've taken the contraction at the front side of the body rather than the back of the body. Hold it there just for a breath. Then raise that right leg again back up to the ceiling. Bring your right foot back to meet the left. Take a little paddle of the feet. Come down onto the knees. Sink the hips back to the heels and stretch through the shoulders. Finding that child pose position for a breath. Then make your way back up onto your hands and knees. Step yourself back to a plank and hold the plank for 5, 4, 3, try to avoid holding the breath, 1, lift the hips, paddle the feet, nod and shake of the head. Bring the heels to stillness. Try and engage those abdominals, lifting the lower belly towards the hips. Weight now comes into the right foot as you lift the left leg. Try not to turn the hips. Try and squeeze the right heel towards the floor, the left heel as high as you can. Squeeze that glute maximus. Squeeze those hamstrings on the back of that left thigh. Holding here just for another breath. And then take the squeeze through the hip flexor by bringing the knee towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. And hold it in that compression of the hip for one more breath. Then lifting that leg back up to the ceiling. Bring it back to meet the right. Take a paddle of the feet. And then make your way into a seated position. Either swing the legs around or step one foot then the other foot forward. Bringing the bums to the mat. Bringing the feet just in front of you. Turn the hands towards the bum. So we're going to be taking ourselves into a V shape, lift and lower, but with the support of the hands. So engage through the glute muscles, engage through the abdominal muscles, lift one foot up to knee high, then find that balancing point and lift the left foot up to meet. Squeeze the shoulder blades together to create some space across the chest and some contraction through those shoulder blades. And then on your out breath, lower and straighten the legs with the support of the hands. In breath, lift back to center. Out breath, lower. In breath, back to center. We have 4 more of these. Out breath, lower. In breath, back to center. Out breath, lower. In breath, back to center. 2 more. Out breath, lower. In breath, center. 1 more. Out breath, lower. In breath, back to center. Cross the feet over or swing them around. Bring the hands forward. Come back into that kneeling position. So we're going to start to take some hip circles on one leg and then the other. So weight into your left knee. Bring your right knee towards the right elbow. And then send the right knee out to the side. And then back towards hip height. And then bring that right knee back into the elbow. Take it out to the side. Back through to the center. hip height, and then bring that knee back to the elbow. Take it the opposite direction, so send the knee up to hip height. Bring it out to the side and back to that right elbow. One more in that direction. Send the knee up to hip height. Getting some mobility through that hip joint. Back to the elbow and back to centre. Same on the other side. Bring the left knee towards the left elbow, weight into your right knee. Bring it around, out to the side. Point the foot to the ceiling, knee at hip height. Then knee back to the left elbow. Round it out to the side. Up to hip height. Then back to the elbow. Try to keep as much abdominal contraction as you can. Opposite direction, send it up, hip height, foot to the ceiling. Circle it out to the side and back to that left elbow. Send it back up to hip height. Bring it out to the side and back to that left elbow. Bring that left knee down to meet the right. Walk the hands a handprint forward. Weight comes into your left knee. Bring your right leg up, point through the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, bring the chin to the floor. Push into those hands. Then bring that right knee back to meet the left. Send that left leg long. Turn the crease of the elbows. Lower elbows grazing the ribs. Push into the hands. Left knee back to meet the right. Walk the hands back underneath the shoulders. Step back to plank. Holding plank for 5. Push the hands into the mat. 4. Squeeze the heels back, crown forward. 3. 2. 1. Lift up with the hips and squeeze those heels back. If you wish to still have a paddle here, feel free to do so, if those hamstrings are a little tight. And then bring those heels to a still position. Push into the hands, push the chest back towards the thighs, tether the ribs and hips, lift up the lower belly. So keeping that engagement of the core. On your exhale, lift that right leg up without turning in the hips. Hip bones stay neutral to the mat. Hold it there, squeeze it up as high as you can, using the glutes and the hamstrings to lift. And then start to take the compression through the right hip. Bring it towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Squeeze and hold it in this space. Really bringing that knee as close towards you as you can. Then raise that right leg back up to the ceiling. And bring that right foot to meet the left. Come down onto the knees. Sit bones to the heels, foreheads to the mat. Stretch through the shoulders. Just take a rest in child's pose for another breath. Then making your way back up onto your hands and knees. Step back to plank. Hold it in plank with everything engaged for 5. Soften the elbows. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lift the hips. Squeeze those heels back. Make sure you're nice and grounded through the hands. Weight into your right foot as you lift the left leg. Try and squeeze that back chain of muscles to lift the leg high, but try not to arch the back. Keep everything tethered through those ribs and hips. And then compress that left hip flexor by bringing that knee towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Keep pushing into the floor. Keep pushing that chest away from the mat. The knee towards the chest. And then lift that left leg back up. Bring it back to meet the right. Make your way into a seated position. And bring the bums to the centre, feet to the front. And then make your way slowly down onto the mat with control. Using that abdominal strength, the long limbs. And when the shoulders arrive down, bring the hands behind the back of the head and just let the head settle in the hands. Take a bend into both knees. And then lift the back away from the floor, abdominal crunch here, to take our bicycle movement, opposite elbow to opposite knee. On your exhale, bring right elbow to left knee and straighten the right leg. Inhale, back to centre. Exhale, left to right knee, straighten the left leg. Inhale, back to centre. Do 4 more on both sides. Back to centre. Left elbow, right knee, straighten the left leg. Back to centre. 3 more on both sides. Keep pushing that lower spine into the floor. Back to centre. Try not to pull on the neck. Left elbow, right knee, straighten the left leg. Back to centre. 2 more both sides. Right elbow, left knee, straighten the right leg. Back to centre. Inhale. Try not to hold that breath. Back to centre, inhale. Exhale is when you take the long limb. Inhale is back to centre. 1 more left elbow to right knee. Back to centre. Release the head to the floor. Bring the knees into the chest. Maybe just have a little rock of that body from side to side. Massaging that spine and thanking it for practice. And then rocking up to a seat. Either swing the legs around or bring the feet underneath the body. Bring the knees down. Tabletop position. And just take a little few rounds of cat-cow just to soften through that abdominal contraction. So lifting from the tailbone, working up through the lumbar, thoracic, cervical spine. And then tuck the tailbone, start to work back the other way. Feeling the body go into that cat position, stretching through the back. 1 more both directions. Lift up through the tailbone, send it up to the upper part of the back. Lift up the head and the gaze. And then send it back to tuck everything in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks. Come back to a centre space. Walk the hands 1 footprint forward. Bring your weight into your left knee. Raise your right leg up. Turn the creases of the elbows and bring that chin towards the floor. Keep abdominal contraction here. Push into the hands, lift the chest. Bring that right knee back to meet the left. Lift up the left leg. Turn the creases of the elbows. Lower towards the mat. Push into those hands. And bring that left knee back to meet the right. Bring the hands back under the shoulders. Step yourself back to a plank position. Holding it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lift the hips and squeeze the heels back. Create some space between the shoulders and the ears, some length and width across those collarbones. And then bring your weight into your left foot, raise your right leg, heel to push up to the ceiling without the hips turning. Squeeze that bum, keep that engagement on the front of the body, and then compress the hip flexor. Bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands and hold that knee as close to the chest as you can. And then send that right leg back up to the ceiling, keeping the hips nice and level. And then this time bring your right foot in between the hands. Help it through if you need to. Drop down onto your left knee. Keep the hands there to support. Push into the right foot and then lift that left heel towards that left bum cheek. Squeezing the hamstring of that left leg to try and bring that heel as close as you can. Not using any outside force to bring the heel in, we're just working with strength. Those fingertips grounded keep you stabilised. So you can concentrate on the muscle in the back of that left thigh. Squeeze that left bum cheek a little more. Try and draw that left heel in a little closer. Really working strength into those hamstrings. Then release those left toes back down, ground the hands, lift the left knee and step yourself back to a plank position. Holding in plank for 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Lift the hips and squeeze those heels back. Take a little paddle of the feet. Bring your weight this time into your right foot as you lift the left leg. Squeeze that left bum cheek. Keep the hips level. Keep the tether of the ribs and hips. Hold it just for one more breath. And then squeeze that knee into the chest. Start to bring the shoulders over the heel of the hands. Lifting that knee as high as you can take it. Support through the floor by pushing into the hands, sending that energy into that space between the shoulder blades. Keep breathing easy breaths. Try not to hold the breath. Next breath in, raise that left leg. Keep the hips still nice and level. Feel the activation of the glutes and the hamstrings. And then bring that left foot through, in between the hands, helping it through with the left hand if you need to. Drop down onto that right knee, keep the support of the fingertips on the floor. Push into that left foot. This time lifting your right foot towards that right bum cheek. Again, no outside help with any hands. Just using the strength of the hamstring. And whilst we're contracting those hamstrings, we're lengthening through those thigh muscles. Really thinking about the switching on of those glute muscles. The switching on of the hamstring to keep that foot being drawn towards that right bum cheek. One more breath, trying to hold it here in this space. Then release that right foot back to the floor, ground the hands, step your left foot back to meet the right, and then lift those hips, squeezing those heels back. Take a little nod and a shake of the head. Then whilst you're in down dog, I want you to think about activating those shoulders and those arms. So the way to do this is thinking like you're drawing those hands towards each other, but you're resisting by pushing into the mat. You'll notice how those arm muscles start to switch on, going all the way up into the shoulders. And then think about doing the same with the feet, like you're drawing them together, but they don't move. And then release that contraction out. Come forward into a plank. Drop down onto the knees. Weight into your left knee. Lift your right leg out, up to the back. Turn the creases of the elbow and let that chin come towards the floor. Push into those hands and lift that chest away. Right knee back to meet the left. Left foot up and to the back of the room. Turn the creases of the elbows again. Let that chest and chin come towards the floor. Push into those hands and bring that left knee back to meet the right. Walk the hands back underneath the shoulders. Step both feet back into a plank position. Holding it in plank for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the knees down, untuck the toes, turn the creases of the elbows forward, and then slowly start to lower that belly. Try not to let the bum sink, keep everything in a long line. Bring the arms just to cactus arms, palms facing down, elbows in line with the shoulders. Feet are slightly apart. On your breath in, lift up with the chin, the chest. Lift up with the elbows and the hands. Squeeze the shoulder blades together so we're making some strength happen in the upper back. Push the hips into the floor by engaging those glutes, and then lift the feet away if you're happy to do so, making that whole back chain of muscles work nice and strong, stretching the front chain of muscles, holding it here for 5, 4, 3, maybe lift a little higher, 2, 1. Release the hands and the feet back to the mat and turn onto the right cheek and just let the body relax. So the next one we're going to do is pulses, same position. Just take another breath, laying on the floor. Then turn the head back to centre and we're going to pulse for 10. So just lifting the body away from the mat, lifting the feet away, and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax, bring the left cheek onto the mat and just let everything relax here. And we'll take it again to pulsing for 10. So bring the chin back onto the mat. Lift the body away. Lift the feet, lift the hands, lift the chest. And pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. Bring the right cheek to the mat. The next one we're going to do is go back to the hold for 10 without the pulse. Bring the head back to centre. Raise up first with the arms, the chest. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Push the hips into the mat. Lift the feet. Holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release the chest down. Bring the hands by the sides of the chest. Tuck the toes under. Bring the chest back to the thighs. Bring the big toes together. And just settle yourself in child's pose for a couple of breaths. Relax through the neck. Maybe just take a little movement through the head and the upper spine. Then coming onto your hands and knees, bringing your hands just a handprint in front. Weight comes into your left knee. Point your right toes back to the back of the room. Turn the creases of the elbows. Release the chest towards the floor. Then push into the hands and bring that right knee back to meet the left. Point out with the left foot. Toes stay pointed, hips stay neutral. Turn the creases of the elbows and release the chest and chin towards the floor. Push into the hands, back to centre, left knee back to meet the right. Take a little rock of the hips from side to side. Then coming down onto the forearms, stepping then your feet back into a forearm plank. Hold forearm plank for 5, squeeze the bum, 4, draw the belly back, 3, push into the forearms, 2, push into the hands. 1, heels back, crown forward. Turn your right hand in, so you've got a support, and roll onto your right side body, left foot in front of the right. And we're going to take hip dips on this side. So on your exhale, drop down to the floor. Inhale, lift. Exhale, drop the right hip towards the floor. Inhale, lift. 3 more, right hip to the floor. Inhale, lift. 2 more. Inhale, lift. Try not to let the lower back arch. Inhale, lift. Come back to forearms and just drop the knees and tuck the toes. Bring the toes together and walk yourself back to child's pose. Take a breath in child's pose. Relax through the shoulders, but reach through the hands. Then making your way back into your tabletop position. Hands a handprint in front. Weight into the left knee. Point your right toes back. Turn the creases of the elbows. Take the chest and chin to the floor. Push into the hands. Right knee back to meet the left. Left foot points out. Turn the creases of the elbows. Chin towards the chest, chin towards the floor. Push into the hands. Left knee back to meet the right. Come down onto your forearms. Widen the fingers. Push into those forearms. Step yourself back to that forearm plank. Engage everything through the body for 5, 4. Don't let the belly sink. 3, 2. Don't let the lower back arch. 1. Bring your left hand in slightly as a stabilizer. Roll over onto your left outside edge of the foot. Right foot in front of the left. Hip dips on this side. Exhale, left hip to the floor. Inhale, lift. 4 more. Keep that body as straight as you can. Lift, inhale. Exhale, drop. Lift. 2 more. Really pushing into that forearm and elbow. And lift. Come back to forearm plank. Drop the knees. Bring the big toes together. Separate the knees as wide as you wish to bring that body, chest to the inside of the thighs. Easy breaths in, long breaths out. So just having a moment here just to think about what you've done so far, and have you been holding the breath? If you have, make that your focus to keep that breath coming nice and easy. Then bringing yourself back to that tabletop position. Knees underneath the hips, walk the hands a handprint forward. Weight into the left knee, right leg points out, turn the creases of the elbow, chest and chin to the floor. Push into those hands, right knee back to meet the left. Weight into the right knee, left leg points out, turn the creases of the elbows forward. Elbows graze the ribs as the chin and chest come to the floor. Push into the hands. Bring yourself back up, tabletop position. Walk the hands a little further forward, and let's start to take a little rotation through those hip and shoulders. So bring the hips towards a hover towards the heel of the hands. Send the hips then over to your left side, back towards your heels, over to your right side, back to the heel of the hands. Then the opposite direction, over to your right side, back to the heels, over to your left side, and back to the heel of the hands. Let yourself come all the way onto the floor. Roll onto your right side. Bring your right hand underneath the head. So we've got support. Bend into both knees. And then we're going to take clams on this side. So we're really working the outside of that left bum cheek. So the heels and feet stay together. On your exhale, lift that left leg. Inhale, bring it back down. We're doing 10 on this side. Exhale, lift. Inhale, back down. Keep that abdominal contraction. Exhale, we lift. Inhale, it comes back down. 7 more. Keep that left hand to support the body from rocking forward. 5 more. Keep breathing, nice and easy. Exhale, we take the movement. Inhale, we come back to center. 3 more. Really feeling the outside of that left hip working. 1 more. And then make your way to the opposite side. So rolling onto your left side. Left hand now comes underneath the head. Right hand is your stabilizer. Bend the knees. Try and just hook the tailbone under and tether the ribs and hips. Heels and feet stay together. Exhale, lift that right knee. Inhale, bring it back. 9 more. 7 more. Really squeeze the outside of that right bum cheek. 5 more. Exhale, lift. Inhale, back to the center. Think about that tailbone staying tucked. 4 more. And 3 more. 1 more. And then roll onto the belly. Tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Create some length along the collarbones, space around the ears. Think about lifting up that lower belly, holding it in down dog. Engage the upper arms by feeling you're dragging the hands in towards each other. Engage the legs, feeling like you're drawing the toes towards each other. Feel that activation of the whole body. And then release that out. Weight comes into your left foot as you raise your right leg. Keep the hips nice and neutral. Point through the right toes. Squeeze as much as you can through the back of that right leg. And then squeeze the front right hip flexor to bring the knee towards the chest and the shoulders over the heel of the hands. Holding it here just for 1 more breath. And then raise that right leg back up. Bring it back to meet the left. Weight comes into your right foot as you raise the left leg. Squeeze that left bum cheek. Point the left toes. Squeeze the right heel down. Bring that knee towards the chest, shoulders over the heel of the hands. Holding it here just for another breath. Then raise that left leg back up. Bring it back to meet the right. Come down onto the knees. Walk the hands a handprint further forward. Weight comes into your left knee. Point back with the right toes. Turn the creases of the elbows. Lower the chest and chin. Push into the hands. Right knee back to meet the left. Left leg points out. Turn the creases of the elbows. And release that chest and chin. Push into the hands. Left knee back to meet the right. Make your way back into a seated position. Bringing the bums into the center of the mat. Heels to the front of the mat. Slowly start to lower yourself down towards the mat with control. Nice and easy. Just for our last bit of core work. So bringing the knees up into that 90-degree angle. Bring the hands down so they're just hovering away from the floor, palms pointing down. Then lift the head and the shoulders, and we're going to pulse for 20. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, relax the neck, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Release the shoulders down, give those knees a squeeze into the body, maybe just have a little rock of that body from side to side, just massaging that spine again, thanking it for all its practice. Bring the feet to the floor. We're going to take those hips into extension one last time, just to get the last squeeze of the glutes and the hamstrings, but the stretch of the front of the body. Feet hip width apart, knees hip width apart, hands on the floor, gaze is up. Start to roll up through that spine, one vertebra at a time, bringing yourself all the way up into our bridge position. Don't let the knees splay apart. Think about you having a beach ball in between those knees, so those inner adductors start to work, and those glute maximus works to push those hips high. Just one more breath in extension, and then slowly let that bum come back to the mat. Bring the arms out to a T shape, feet and knees come together. Bring the hips over to the right side, let the knees drop over to the left. Still keeping the shoulder blades grounding as much as you can. Hips are turning to the left, chest is facing to the ceiling. Maybe turn that gaze to that right palm. Think about hooking that lower belly up and the tailbone under. Then bringing those knees back to centre, bring the bums back into the middle. Then over to the left side, bring the knees over to the right side and the gaze towards that left hand. Let everything settle, but don't make that lower back arch too much. Still holding on to a little more core engagement before we take ourselves into relaxation. Bring then those knees back into the centre, bums into the centre. Find your most favoured relaxation pose. It could be the butterfly legs with the hands on the hips, or maybe the knees into the centre and heel toeing the feet out to the side to relax and let that lower back get a little space. Or maybe you want to go into full Shavasana, bringing the legs long to the width of the mat, dropping the feet out to the sides, bringing the hands just away from the body, palms facing up. Wherever you've chosen to take your relaxation, just make sure you're trying to let go of any tension you're holding now, letting go of any abdominal contractions, any hamstrings, thighs, hip flexors, maybe just having a little rock of those hips, or a rock of the knees if you're in butterfly legs. Maybe have a turn of the head in one direction, back through centre and over to the other side. Back into the middle. Find that comfortable space at the back of the head. Relax the forehead, the jaw. Let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth. Let those lips gently part. Take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose and a long sigh out through the mouth, and let that out breath be where you give a little more weight to the mat. bring your focus back to the breath. Take a nice, long, deep breath in. Long breath out. If you're coming out of relaxation with me, bring some movement into the fingers, into the toes. But remember, you can stay in relaxation for longer, just pause me now. Start to bring movement into the wrists, the ankles, the elbows and the knees, into the hips, into the shoulders. If you wish to take a full body stretch, stretch the hands up and over the head. Maybe take a big arch into that lower back as we'd be contracting that belly a lot. Get the stretch through those abdominals, the arch through the lower spine. And then bringing those hands back up and over, bringing the knees into the chest. Maybe just have a little rock of that body from side to side. Then taking a roll over onto one side. Just make a pillow with the hands. Take a long, easy breath here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Then when you're ready, slowly making your way into a seat with the eyes gently closed, finding your most comfortable seated position. When you arrive there, bring the hands onto the top of the thighs, take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, relax them down towards the hips, tall through the spine. On your next breath in, reach up and over with the hands, bring the palms together at the top, then bring the hands down to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your heart, from my heart to yours. Namaste.